So before we start, there was something that I needed to show you, but I'd say to my colleague keynotes, you can Google, search for one of our top employees called Michael Makowitz. You may see in your LinkedIn that you may have gotten a request from him. If you can check your phones, if you can. The name is Michael Makowitz. If you do see that request, that's a fake employee. I just had one of my colleagues just do that, just to see how things look. But the main purpose of that wasn't for, say, attacks, but it was for a different tactic that we want to do in cyber attribution. I couldn't show it on the page just yet, but if you do search LinkedIn, you'll find the person. So as already mentioned, I'm the Deputy Director of Research and Training in CADC. And I will start with a presentation on CIC. So let's just start. Now, CIC is a multidisciplinary institute in cybersecurity with over 25 years in innovative R&D and entrepreneurship in cybersecurity. Now, with that has actually given us the vision to drive excellence and leadership in cybersecurity research, innovation, and education in Canada. And because of that, our primary focus, spinning the wheel right there, has to do with training and also bringing awareness to various sectors and professional development. And I am one of such outputs from CIC. And we're also looking into research and innovation and entrepreneurial activities. And it is based on these three focuses that is why we now have been able to successfully establish partnerships with over 20 industry and academic partners, and also set up startups. A notable one is Q1 Labs, which we sold to IBM, and have been able to establish consortia, one of them being the National Cybersecurity Consortium with Professor Ken Barker here as well. Now, another part of our innovation, or part of in terms of driving forward with this, we were able to secure federal funding of $10 million from Public Safety Canada via ACOA, with the means of positioning Canada as a forefront of cyber threat attribution. And we have three primary goals that has to do with create, generate, and develop. In this case, we have to set up our infrastructure, making sure that it is highly secure, and have a data center as well, making sure that that is also reliable. Making sure that we have verifiable, reproducible, and reliable intelligence. And then in all that too, we should be able to develop mostly AI-based tools and data sets to share, but in sharing that, we need to ensure that we factor in national security and make sure that we are very much grounded in strict ethics and privacy. So let's meet the team. So we have Professor Ali Gorbani, whom I like to call Prof G when he's not around. There he is. And Dr. Datka Hugh Hicks, and myself, the youngest one. So now let's meet our operations team: Pamela Kitchen, Mohammed Badawi, whom you've seen here many times, Morakinyo Oke, and Ali Reza Anbiai. And our research team: Dr. Dekodi, Dr. Chuhan, Dr. Rabani, and Dr. Mohammedian. And these are focused on insights and data analytics, and there are more researchers. We have quite the team. So there's more. Dr. Al-Khatib, who focuses on forensics and malware. Dr. Ba, you've seen. Dr. Wimala Soria, and Dr. Irfan, also in data analytics. And last but not the least, Ali Reza Zohurian, who is also working on our attribution as well. Arash Kariznovi, our Honeynet person, who also created the fake profile in a matter of minutes. Samuel Ansong, working on data analytics, and Joseph Sowa, who's also working in dark web. So we have a 5-year plan for CADC, and I will delve into each and every one of them, starting with the first one. So the first one has to do with definitely establishing the structure and organizational structure and infrastructure. And with this, we've already started hiring HQP, some of which you have seen, and also to set up our 2 data centers and have a baseline for our attribution platform. That is the first year, which is already going great. In the second year, once we have everything down to a T, we would scale, because we would definitely have more data coming in, and we need to expand our HQPs as well. And by that time, we estimate that we should have our CADC framework, attribution framework, fully developed, and I'll touch on the framework shortly as well. And by that too, we should be also implementing training programs for various stakeholders, both academic, private, and federal in government. Going on to the third year, we aim at operational excellence, making sure that we can have uninterrupted operational capacity, and the key thing too would be high availability and reliability. And yes, most of the time the thought is that attribution always has to do with just IT, but we're also looking at various sectors too, from military to operational technology as well. These would be one of the focus as well. So we can divide the teams up to look at attribution in various sectors. In year 4, that is when we start looking at sustainability, but in doing so, we start to position ourselves as a leader in cyber attribution, generating revenue from both the private and the government sector, and then being able to contribute to national policy, whilst our research and our research output can be also patented and commercialized. And beyond 2030, which would be our 5th year, we aim to be fully sustainable, generating annual revenue, and having a trained alumni network, and also trying to achieve global domination. So, and this summarizes our 5-year plan. Let's talk about what we've done in the first year. Yeah, we hired people. I'm not going to talk about that one. We are setting up our data center. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that one. But I will touch on our CADC framework, which we started working on with our team. So let's get to it. So we are looking at a CADC attribution framework, which we're looking at 6 components. The first part has to do with, and I usually see that as one of the toughest parts, is to collect data. So we're trying to collect the existing data and then also the new data. The new data can sometimes be from existing. We need to rerun it and see how it looks. And another part too would be leveraging on our Honeynets as well. Now, what we've seen so far is that, yes, the data has various different structures. We need to cluster at that kind of data and analyze them. And in looking at clustering and analysis, it's usually going to be a feedback loop between these two. And when that is finalized, we can run attribution on that, whereby we can now do the real work on attribution, trying to identify groups that are responsible for these attacks and providing insights to on what to do in terms of defense as well, and also what motivates these adversaries to do what they do. And the last part has to do with reporting, to make sure that we provide these reports, still ensuring that it's ethical and still ensuring privacy in this during that process. So now let's start with data collection. And one of the reasons why we created the fake LinkedIn profile, which I wish I could have shown, was that it's part of our Honeynet project. We are trying to create pure Honeynets, highly interactive Honeynets, such that these Honeynets would mimic actual infrastructure. And with this information that comes in, we can collect that data and run attribution on it. And as part of that, we create user profiles that are there that are fake, that maps to these Honeynets. So our initial part is actually creating that for a hospital. So we have that information out there on LinkedIn so that you can have adversaries try to profile, trying to send fake information. We receive these emails, we click it, we deploy, try to see how we can fully trigger even a ransomware so we can implement all these things. Now, if we have these Honeynets available, we can then leverage, we can then talk to various stakeholders and say, hey, we can actually, with the click of a button, set up an infrastructure that looks kind of like yours. You can give us fake data. Any attacks that comes towards your network, you route it to us, and we can collect this information and run certain attribution on it. The next part is the dark web. We're also going through the dark web to see how we can actually gather human intelligence and other artifacts from there and add that as well to our attribution data for both existing and also new data that comes in. The third would be our Sandbox community, which would be that we have sandboxes that have various advantages and disadvantages. So in having this community, we can have various outputs with regards to certain kind of malware, and we've already started with that. We've acquired 2 sandboxes so far, and we're in the process of acquiring more, and that is the plan. If we have all this kind of information, we now put it into our data pipeline, and then we can have the attribution, which would be done on the analysis and the attribution algorithms implemented on this, and these would be AI-based attribution. So this is how our data pipeline looks like. We first start with data collection from various stakeholders, and then also from existing threat intelligence sources. Then we have our Honeycity. Our Honeycity would be Honeynets in various sectors interconnected together to see how attacks can flow from one end to the next. And then our dark web space and also dark space monitor as well. Now, when we have all this information, we store that in a data lake. Information about malware would be run through the Sandbox community and stored back into that data lake. And then we can now run analysis on it. So we can cluster and then we run analysis. Information goes back and forth with regards to enrichment. We run attribution on it. And then we can now provide it to various stakeholders, be it the general public or to the stakeholders and partners. So here are some interesting facts. With regards to the Honeynet, for example, we just deployed only the lightning rod for the Honeynet. And within 2 days, we started receiving around 2,000 requests coming in for those kind of attacks just within those 2 days. And mind you, this is a fake website. And with that, we could see, and we weren't surprised because that's what happens with almost every website that is released. And you would see that adversaries were actually trying to have access to various points so that they can use that to compromise the actual network. And that's what actually happened there. Another interesting stat, which we actually pulled from MITRE, was the APT known groups. We tried to map that to the cyber kill chain so that we can create a profile out of that. And we noticed a very interesting trend. In 2017, there were a lot of techniques that were recorded, over 50. Now it starts to decline until we get to 2025, and it's less than 10. So which means it's either the groups are getting very good, or people aren't reporting, or the attribution isn't that good too. But it might be a combination of both of them. And these are just, and this just shows that the recognized APT groups in us trying to fully identify them is getting challenging as time goes on. And most of them have been actually aligned as intrusion sets. And we're also running an analysis to see how that behavior goes as well. And you would notice as well that from the beginning to the end, which is reconnaissance, the action of objectives is always high. And that's one of the things which means data collection is also another challenge. And in also looking at attribution structure, this is something that is quite well known. We have a structure regarding threat actor motivation and and the victims, in which our various stakeholders have presented. One of the key things, for example, that we noticed was culture. So, for example, you can have a known group that has certain religious beliefs that sort of maybe have certain activities within a certain hour, or they freeze all activities. And imagine that you see this threat happening within that time, and you check that time zone and you realize that it doesn't make sense that this can happen. And that can also lead to something we call misattribution, which I will talk about shortly. So in doing all these things, there were some challenges that we also identified, and there are about 4 of them. And I think this may be the last slide, probably. So data scarcity is one of them, hence, because you don't have a lot of meta-rich data, and that is not surprising because you're having institutions can actually record a lot of data, because now you have to look at backing up the data and trying to keep that data as well. And then there's a whole aspect of concept drift, which you've noticed in terms of the trend with the attacks that I had shown in the previous slides. So they change tactics all the time. And one of the things we observed was that, take for example, there's a technique called LSAS dump. That is phasing out now because Windows 11 has actually put a plug to it. Now, adversaries are now trying to shift towards attacks against domain controllers, and that is also becoming very predominant. And misattribution, so which means that attackers are now trying to cover up their tracks. So you may have a nation state or an organization trying to trick people that, well, this person actually committed the attack, but they did. Or they are also trying to hide their own attacks as well. And the last part is interpretability if you're using AI. To trust it, we need to be able to explain it. So if AI just tells you this attribution is from here, you need to get a reason why. You can't just accept it as such, or else that's just a black box nature. So, whilst I know you're tired here and sleepy or full, think about joining CADC in various ways, as CADC actually is trying to enhance Canada's security posture through innovation and sustainability with a clear roadmap to global leadership in cyber attribution. And you can join us through partnerships, membership, or bring your talent. Thank you very much. If there are any, yes, there it is. Michael Makowitz, our fake employee. So if there are any questions, okay. Okay.